the reason that I wrote this book. Let me tell you a story about Mary Poppins. 2 years ago, almost to the day, I was in the Bahamas. I had been invited to give what is known as a keynote address to a conference organized by an investment bank. You remember what investment banks were, don't you? At this conference, attended by principally the hedge fund clients of this investment bank, I stood up and I said that a major liquidity crisis was imminent, that this would come as a tremendous shock to the financial system because financial institutions were so highly geared, had accumulated such large amounts of debt. When the liquidity crisis struck, they wouldn't be able to roll this debt over and it would be ugly. And I threw out a comparison with the crisis of 1914, when a geopolitical shock, the outbreak of the First World War, caused a total seizure of the international financial system that led to the major stock markets of the world literally having to close their doors for a period of months. The London Stock Exchange didn't open its doors again until January 1915. Banks were plunged into near insolvency throughout the City of London, and only a series of emergency measures by government, including the injection of liquidity, bailouts, and even moratoriums on particular kinds of debt, prevented a total meltdown. Actually, 1914 was a bigger financial crisis than 1929 to 32, but it was suppressed by massive government intervention. And this could happen, I said. In fact, this will happen. Well, I'm not sure that I got a very receptive audience that day. There was a kind of weary sighing as I made my gloomy Cassandra-like prophecy. And afterwards, one of the conference participants suggested to the organizers that next year, rather than invite a dreary, pessimistic academic again, they simply show the film Mary Poppins. Now, I was rather hurt by that, because I do have feelings. I had to go for a run to calm down. As I was running up a hill, it suddenly struck me, Mary Poppins. Mary Poppins. And I remembered that scene. Perhaps you do too. There must be some Julie Andrews fans here. It's when she takes Michael, the son of Mr. Banks, to visit the bank where Mr. Banks works. And they try to persuade Michael to deposit his tuppence halfpenny pocket money in the bank. And he says he doesn't want to. He wants to use it to feed the pigeons. Give me my money back, he says. And another client of the bank standing in the bank office hears this and says, did you hear that? They won't give that boy his money back. I think I want my money back. Could I have my money back, please? And another client says, did you hear that? They're not giving people their money back. I'd like my money back, please. And I want mine too. Stop all payments. The bank has to suspend payments. It goes bust. Mr. Banks loses his job. It's a bank run. You can imagine the feeling I had when I remembered that scene. I ran back down the hill to my laptop and I sent an email saying, what an extremely good idea. Next year, you really, really must show Mary Poppins. Don't invite me, just show the movie. You know the saddest words in the English language? Too late. Because by November 2007, a year later, it had already happened. Northern Rock, bank run. Hadn't been one in London since 1866. What caused the crisis? I would suggest to you a lack of knowledge of financial history has been one of the prime causes of this crisis. And the purpose of the Ascent of Money was very simple. I wanted to write a book that would give you a one-stop shop for the financial history of the world, on the principle that that was what was missing. Financial history, you know, is a very poor relation in the academic world. Very few universities offer courses in financial history, also few business schools. It was regarded as a great innovation when I was invited to New York University to lecture in financial history. When I created a course in financial history at Harvard a couple of years ago, the department administrator said, well, you won't need many teaching fellows for that, because I don't suppose more than about 8 undergraduates will take it. Well, in fact, 122 took the course, which caused all kinds of chaos. I think there's an appetite for financial history among students, but there is not much provision of it. And one consequence is that throughout the financial system, not only at the top, not only in Wall Street and the city, but right down at the grassroots, among the ordinary people making decisions about their mortgages and about the allocation of their assets, there is a breathtaking ignorance of financial history. And most people rely, therefore, on their own experience, which isn't enough. It is not enough. The average chief executive's career in charge of an investment bank was 25 years when I worked it out a year ago, which meant that nobody remembered much before 1982, when the crisis began. And if they were only relying on the history of Wall Street or the city since 1982, they were bound to underestimate the risk of a liquidity crisis because they'd never been through one. And one of the key points I try to make in the book is that major financial crises happen, they do happen quite often, but not often enough for people to remember the last one. And that's why you have to study financial history.